Hello again, this is Alex with MasterChartsTrading.com, and this is a market recap for July 6, 2018. First of all, again, I apologize for another missed video last week. I was still traveling and I just had absolutely no way to get to the computer. So hopefully we are back to the normally scheduled programming. We have U.S. stocks approaching all-time highs, but the rest of the world is not. It's not as clear where this is going. Some of the stock markets, I think, are in outright bear markets, such as Europe and emerging markets. There is more, not necessarily a flight towards safety, but more demand for safety assets, as utilities and real estate and staples are getting a bid together with preferred stocks also. We'll look at dollar, gold, oil, natural gas, and we'll finish off this crypto review as usual. Alright, so first of all, of course, please hit the like button for MasterChartsTrading.com channel and subscribe to this channel. S&P 500 futures bounced in a very logical place. You can see this blue line. Excuse me. This blue line is a part of my indicator package. You can find out more about it at MasterChartsTrading.com. So you can see it calls the price action quite well, and if you are a trader and you appreciate and know what you're doing, you can set, for example, one of the strategies is to buy at limit at the indicator lines, and we can see a nice rally higher. The chart itself of stocks, S&P 500, is a bullish chart. Why do I say that? You can see that we can zoom out more, and if you just simply look at this chart, we can see that first of all we made a high just not that long ago, a few months ago, right there in January of 2018, and since then we have not yet made a new low. We continue to tend towards new highs. You can see that this is a bullish chart because we are making higher highs and higher lows. Let me show you a chart where the opposite is true. So, for example, here's TLT, and I'll go into it a little bit later. But for now, I'm looking at it. Look, notice that there's a breakdown, and we can opportunities to short. So for the opposite is true for stock markets currently, United States stock market specifically. So the futures of S&P 500 are currently bullish. This cannot be said about multiple other markets. So here what I wanted to show are several of the markets that I follow at MasterChartsTrading.com. So first of all, Chinese markets, European markets, emerging markets in general they appear to be in a bear market. So let's look at general emerging markets. EEM, the most popular traded ETF. Now here on the 27th of June, this is an alert I sent to my subscribers, and additionally I actually had some holdings in my retirement accounts, and I moved all of my emerging market exposure to cash currently. So I don't have any exposure to emerging markets, and when we get to European, I'll show you that I also don't have exposure to European markets, stock markets. So to me this looks like a bearish break for emerging markets that happened in June, late June of this year. We will most likely get a bounce, and I'm expecting a bounce to around 45 bucks, possibly 46 bucks, but I wouldn't expect it to continue. In fact, I would consider shorting it there if you have the means and the knowledge to do that. So the biggest contributor to this bearishness, I think, is China. Here, as early as 20th of June of this year, this is already a warning to me, and I, basically, I would start to think about avoiding it, this chart. But here you can see a clear close below this yellow indicator line. So on the 6th of July, today basically, I see Chinese markets, the large cap Chinese markets, close below what I call support resistance lines. And additionally, these lines are like trend setters. And for equity, for stocks, I usually set a yellow line as a bearish trend setter and a blue line as a bullish trend setter. So up to and including as recently as actually today, I would consider Chinese markets in a bull market, but right now I would consider it to be in a bear market. Now, most likely we will get a bounce again, so I would not be, it would not be unreasonable to expect about, say, a 6 to 7% bounce in FXI. So, but if I was trading it, I would potentially look for a shorting opportunity here at around 45 bucks. Another measure of Chinese stock market is ASHR. ASHR. I don't trade this, guys. I don't really like it that much. There's too much currency risk, too much manipulation, so I kind of avoid it. But you can see right there, on the 19th of June, you can see a breakdown. I would call this a bearish break. If I was an aggressive trader, I would just short it right there. I don't really like to short equity that much, so yeah, we can expect a bounce in this measure of Chinese markets. I would say at least 5%, but more likely about maybe 11 to 13% bounce. It just depends on where this will end, but it's not unreasonable to expect about a 10% bounce in this particular instrument. Again, I would consider shorting it later on if I was trading it. If I was trading it, I would short it at currently 28.79. So overall, Chinese markets seem to be entering a bear market. Overall, general emerging markets, I think, have entered also, possibly have entered a bear market. So yeah, not looking great. Let's look at Europe. Here's VGK. Same thing. There's the bearish break on the 25th of June. Again, I personally don't have any European holdings as far as stock market or retirement accounts. I would consider shorting it at 58. This particular ETF, if you so desire. But again, with equity, it's more difficult to short, and stocks, generally speaking, have a bullish bias. So I would not necessarily recommend it for less experienced traders. If you know what you're doing, again, you could potentially do this with options. So Japan, this is of the major markets, I think, one of the few that is remaining relatively strong. So here's Japanese index fund, EWG. Notice on the 2nd of July here we see a cautionary break. If we get below 54.95 currently, I would say that this is a bearish break. So currently, Japanese markets is a little bit stronger than European. Here's European markets that are already below this yellow support resistance lines. EWG, the Japanese market, is slightly better off. I think it has to do with currency fluctuations. Here's US dollar versus Japanese yen. The breakout, I think, occurred already on the 21st of May, whereas US dollar is gaining versus the Japanese yen. It's quite reasonable to expect further appreciation to at least 113, and that would be, let me see, about a 200 pip move for this particular security, or almost a 1.8% move. For our currency, it's a large move, and I think if that occurs, EWG, the Japanese market, will collapse into a bear market. So currently there is very few stock markets except for United States. Here's SPY, for example, or yes, one exclamation point. Here is the futures. You can see that they're approaching fresh highs. QQQ also approaching fresh high. This is NASDAQ. IWM, which is a Russell 2000 small cap index, approaching fresh highs too. So United States markets are doing quite well, while the rest of the world are not doing as well, obviously. Right, let's continue to bonds. Here's TLT, and I had a subscriber send me a question. Isn't it time to short TLT here? And I wasn't really feeling this one. I personally prefer to short on breakdown below the indicator line. So, for example, if I was to short this one, I would short on a break below 121 currently. But just the way this, look how it popped. Notice this big gap here, well, relatively big gap, and it's exactly around this red indicator line. And then it kind of continued higher. Notice it made a fresh high for the move of the lows from the May lows. So currently I'm watching for a possible breakout. You know, this would go contrary to what's happening in the excuse me, treasury yield universe, where the yield is, well, something happened there, where the yield is actually moving lower possibly. So we'll see. So I would probably not want to short TLT just yet, and this is propelling a rally in more safety oriented equity funds. So for example, here's XLU, big rally here. Again, see, what I like about this indicator lines is that I personally prefer to short on breakdowns. So here are a couple of those examples, actually a few of those examples, the way I would short. And notice this last iteration, I just wasn't sure what's happening, and notice that big green candlestick exactly through this indicator line. So now we see a rally towards this bullish levels, and bullish levels I think are at 53.53. I think if we see a close above that, I think the rally in utilities could continue at least to at 55 or so. It's possible. So for example, here's IYR, real estate, which is also interest rate sensitive sector, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's the breakout above this blue indicator line. This is an actual alert I sent to MasterCharts Trading subscribers, and nice move right there. So it's looking pretty good for real estate, and multiple real estate investment trusts are coming on my radar currently that are also doing similar patterns of breakouts above the support resistance lines, and you can pretty much visualize this breakout. It's pretty straightforward. So with this move in TLT, move up in the bond prices, move down in the interest rates, there seems to be a possible flight to safety currently. And here is the investment grade corporates. Pretty weak chart as well, but notice a bounce here. Now, if you're an aggressive trader, you could try and short it here. I'm not an aggressive trader. If I was trying to short this chart, I would try and get it up, short it around 116 or even 117 possibly. Yeah, so it looks like there is a little bit of flight to safety. Utilities are gaining, real estate is gaining. Here is a PFF, or also preferred portfolio. Notice a potential breakout here, and they move towards bullish levels. So notice if you are shorting it back here in March, you can make nice move already. But now it looks like we may be reversing, so we will see. So overall, XLP also, which is a consumer staples, it's kind of approaching this, one of the weakest funds really. But again, I would caution new traders against shorting equity. It's just really much more difficult. During the bear markets, no problem, you can short equity. But during bull markets, which is still currently happening, because the general market, S&P 500, is in a bull market. Notice we're still above the blue line, we're approaching fresh highs. So I would caution against shorting equity, especially for new traders. But nevertheless, it's possible. Here's a great level to look for a shorting opportunity around 52, 50, 53 bucks. Maybe we get a small, or maybe even a sizable move down. It just depends. Junk bonds also, those are fresh lows. And as I keep pointing out, junk bonds correlate highly to the general stock market. Here is the junk bonds weekly chart graphed together with the S&P 500. Notice the correlation coefficient is mostly positive. So, as I keep saying, it's possible that weakness in junk bonds will eventually translate into weakness in stocks. At the very least, it's currently translating into weakness in stocks in foreign markets. Okay, so junk bonds, we covered that. Okay, so let's continue to the Forex universe. Okay, so let's look at the Forex, and let's start with dollar index first of all, DXY. Now I'm thinking that we could see a pullback for dollar versus other currencies. I think it's a great opportunity to buy already, but if it drops another 1% or so, I think it will be just an incredible opportunity to buy the dollar. It is in a bull market currently. Here is a breakout on the 28th of May. If you had any doubts, there is the fresh high for the move on the 20th of May. Normal looking pullback, and let's look at individual currencies now which are making up this dollar index. Euro versus US dollar. Bearish break, I think, here on the 25th of May. If you had any doubts, there's the confirmation on the 27th of June. Again, normal looking pullback. I would short at 1.19 if it even gets there. British pound versus US dollar. Same thing, bearish break there on the 29th of May. I would short at 1.3375, and you can find out more about these indicators at MasterChartsTrading.com. You can also look for me on the Trading View as MasterCharts. There's MasterCharts. US dollar versus Japanese yen. I think there's also a bullish chart for the US dollar. So in other words, I'm expecting a further appreciation of dollar versus Japanese yen. I mean, it looks that way. This looks like a bullish breakout right there on the 21st of May. US dollar versus Canadian dollar. Beautiful breakout right there on the 28th with a 384 pip move in our favor. US dollar versus Mexican peso, interesting pattern. So yes, a bounce here at the blue indicator line and now a break below this indicator line. Perhaps this is signaling something, perhaps not. Here's EWW, which is a Mexican stock market, responding in a predictable manner to a rally in Mexican peso. I would either short or avoid this chart currently, but I am looking at US dollar versus Mexican peso and see if we're gonna get a bottoming pattern here and then a rally. Now, if I was trading it, I would buy it on close above this level currently, 1965. Let me see what else. US dollar CHF, which is a Swiss franc bullish chart. There's a breakout. So let me see what else. So some of the emerging market currencies, US dollar versus Turkish lira, and here's my wild prediction. Notice that this chart here, Erdogan wins elections, was published before he won elections. Now here's my prediction for the near future. I think we will see a short-term rally in Turkish lira, followed by another leg down for the Turkish lira. In other words, the US dollar will gain versus the Turkish lira. US dollar versus ruble. Again, bullish chart. So if you were buying it back here, there's I put this arrow during one of my videos here. Let me look at RSX, Russia markets. This one not a great chart, not an outright bearish chart either. So that's why I'm not a big fan of shorting equity. It's kind of difficult. All right, let me see what else. US dollar versus Chinese yuan. There's that breakout on the 27th of June of this year. It was already a sizable move. Even if you just bought right exactly on breakout, this was already, you know, a 1.79% move right there. And I think this is a bullish chart for the US dollar. And I think US dollar will continue to appreciate following a mild pullback. Or possibly this is already the pullback that's it. But somewhere between, you know, current price of 93.96 and I would say 92.80 would be just excellent buying opportunities. Of course, the dollar acting the way it is not constructive to gold-related assets, and here are the gold futures. I think this is already a bearish chart, and it occurred, the bearish break I think occurred on the 26th of June 2018 here. Again, if the dollar loses some ground, then I think it would make sense for gold futures to pop slightly higher. So currently maybe 1.5% or so rally, but I would short it there. Right, let's look at oil. Here's US oil. It's a bullish chart. This is a fresh high. I thought we're gonna, back in June, late May, June, I thought we were gonna pull back slightly lower to like $62 right there, but it never even materialized, and we just made a fresh high. So overall, it was a, it's a bullish security currently, and we're trading it also on the upside at MasterCharts Trading. There's natural gas. I think it will continue to depreciate in the near term. I would say $2.7 is a good level to expect in the near term. And let's look at cryptos. Here's Bitcoin versus US dollar. Not a lot of activity is happening, just kind of trading sideways, but overall clearly bearish security. I would say any bounce to 7,800. If it gets to 1,000, it was just, I think it could be an incredible short. I would not be buying it under any circumstances. Currently, I would be only selling it if I was trading it. Here's a beautiful move on Ethereum. Notice, during one of the previous videos, I pointed this bearish break on the 22nd of May. You had an opportunity, if you were trading it, to short it right there for a spectacular 36% move in your favor. Litecoin, LTC USD, did even better, 53% move in our favor. And if you traded it back here in early May or even in late April, you had opportunities to short for a 53% move in your favor. So it's a pretty big move. And another cryptocurrency I recently found out, a friend of mine was, I think he works for them or something like that, and he said, oh, this EOS, whatever it is, and I looked at their currency. I see that this is a bearish break. I would short it like right this instant. So I think we can expect another 50% move to the downside for this one, whatever that is. Alright, if you have any questions, please do send them in, make comments below, like this video, then head over to MasterChartsTrading.com, click on alerts and indicators, and select one of the plans. Most people select alerts and indicators because, alerts only, you can't really trade, but with my indicators, like I said, you can get quite easily find the levels where to buy and where to sell. And then also additionally, since it's pretty straightforward, simplistic system, you also will get a bullish versus bearish bias. Because, for example, here on this particular instrument, there's the bearish break on the 22nd of June, I'm sorry, and from then on we're thinking only to sell, and vice versa. For example, here's the bullish break, and then from there on we're only thinking of buying. So overall, pretty straightforward system, and also you get my alerts and my rambling about various stock market issues. Alright, so if you have any questions, again, send them in. Thanks for watching and have another great trading week. Bye-bye.